Welcome to your Farm and Home Show. My name is Joanna Coles, and this morning we're visiting with Natalie Taul. She's the Grayson County Extension Agent for Family and Consumer Sciences. We're going to talk a little bit about reducing stress.
We're all pulled in a million different directions. And I think one of the key things is prioritizing. I tell my husband all the time, he farms, we have a business on the side, we have livestock, and he's all the time going every which way. And I told him this week, prioritize. You have to prioritize, and that is going to help reduce that stress over time. You can only do one thing at a time. And then once you prioritize, you can build focus one thing at a time. So those I think are two key things in stress reduction. So when you start to prioritize, what I want you to do is think about things that need to be done right now. Do now, do later. What is urgent but not necessarily important? Those are going to be kind of like your routine tasks, cleaning your baseboards. We all need to do it. That doesn't need to be done every day, things like that. So your do now things are going to be at the top of that list, whether it's a mental list or a physical list. And then the do later are things that maybe they don't have a deadline, but they still need to get done. Right. There are different methods as well. One that I had not heard of until a recent training was the Pomodoro method. And the Pomodoro method is where we actually set a timer, and I've done this, set a timer for 25 minutes and focus on that one task, whatever it is. If you're at work, maybe you're working on a certain project. If you're at home, maybe it's doing the dishes or cleaning the kitchen or, catching up on work at home. Set a timer for 25 minutes and focus on that one task. Keyword there, one task. A lot of people try to pride themselves on being multitaskers, but research shows us that we're not made for that. That is not, we actually do ourselves a disservice when we try to multitask. So set that timer for 25 minutes, work on that one project. After that 25 minutes is up, take a 5 or 10 minute break from whatever you're doing, set another 25-minute timer. Once you do that 3 or 4 times, then take a little bit of a longer break. So you're kind of breaking up that larger task or that larger project that sometimes causes us stress. And we get that kind of that paralysis of, it's so big, I'm so stressed, I'm just not going to do it, even though it needs to get done. So breaking those larger projects up into smaller chunks of time to kind of tackle them can help reduce our stress while we make progress on whatever it is we need to work towards.
And I think sometimes with all the technology right at our fingertips, right? We have information coming in all the time.
Mm-hmm.
This is very important to do that. So I've also read something about this where it's like you set a time to check your email, and that's
Yes,
instead of it popping up and you check your email all the time, all
right.
throughout the day, it makes you less
Exactly.
productive.
It causes distraction. So what happens in our brain, I talked about we're not multitaskers. We are single taskers, right? So if you turn off notifications on your phone, silence notifications, I used to get that the email ding in the little pop-up window whenever I was working on something else, and I would immediately go to that email and get distracted from what I was doing, okay? Because we're not meant to go, our brain, it's hard for our brains to go back and forth. So when you take away that distraction, you're more focused on the task at hand, knowing that, well, I'm going to check my email from, 11 to 11:30 or whatever. Maybe you have a morning time you check your emails and an afternoon time. And it's okay to set boundaries. Your time isn't just as important as their time. You're going to respond and you're going to do whatever that task is, but you're going to do it on your time. And that time may be the next morning or that afternoon.
Now you have kind of a chart or a graphic for people who are visual who might need to kind of see how this
Right.
process works. And a lot of times I would just encourage people to try it. It might work for you, it might not.
Yeah.
But if you don't try and actually practice and set a habit,
Right.
then it might not be as successful.
Well, and that can be really intimidating when you look at like a chart and you think, I am not going to do that every day. I'm not going to draw out these arrows and these quadrants. You don't have to forever. Just do it to start out, to kind of get you started. And then again, kind of like, anything else, we adapt to what our needs are. So we start with what's given to us with a chart or a matrix or whatever. We start there and then we eventually adapt it to where it fits into our routine and we adjust, for our own needs.
So we appreciate you watching the Farm and Home Show, and we'll see you next time.